The iron gates began closing before Lena Carter could step beyond them. The grinding sound tore through the cold dawn like a warning. Evelyn stopped beside the waiting car. One hand wrapped around the handle of a faded brown suitcase. Beyond the gates, the coastal road curved toward Boston beneath a pale winter sky. Freedom was less than 20 feet away. Then two black security vehicles crossed the driveway and blocked the exit. Armed men moved into position. The driver who had agreed to take Evelyn to the train station lowered his window, saw the weapons, and immediately raised it again. Evelyn did not turn around. She knew who had ordered the gates closed. Footsteps crossed the stone behind her. They were calm, measured, and unhurried. That was what made every guard straighten. Luca Romano never needed to run. The world stopped for him. Evelyn closed her eyes for one brief second before facing the man she had spent 3 years teaching herself not to love. Luca stood in the center of the driveway, wearing black trousers and a white dress shirt with the sleeves folded beneath his forearms. He had not put on a coat despite the freezing air. His dark hair was disordered, as though someone had dragged him from sleep. Evelyn had never seen him look unprepared. His expression was controlled. His eyes were not. In one hand, he held the resignation letter she had left on his desk. The paper was crushed between his fingers. "Open the gates," Evelyn said. Luca continued walking toward her. Behind him, the enormous Romano estate rose above the cliffs, its pale stone walls glowing beneath the first light of morning. Every window seemed to be watching them. Staff members gathered inside the entrance hall. Security guards stood beside marble pillars. Isabella De Luca appeared on the front steps, wearing a white silk robe beneath a fur coat. The engagement ring on her hand caught the dawn. "What is happening?" Isabella demanded. Luca did not look at her. His attention remained on Evelyn. "Why did you leave this on my desk?" Evelyn looked at the letter. "Because I resigned?" That is not an answer. It is the only answer required from an employee. Something dangerous moved across his face. Luca stopped several feet from her. "You left before dawn. I wanted to avoid a scene. You packed one suitcase. Everything I own fits inside it." His gaze lowered to the worn suitcase, then returned to her face. Evelyn wished he would become angry. Anger would have been easier than the silent disbelief in his eyes. For 3 years, Luca Romano had walked through rooms as though he owned every breath inside them. Men confessed secrets when he became quiet. Enemies disappeared after receiving a single phone call. Judges accepted invitations they could not refuse. Politicians waited outside his private office. Yet he stood before a housekeeper with a crushed letter in his hand, looking as though she had committed an act he had never prepared to survive. "Open the gates," she repeated. No. The word was soft. Every guard heard it. Evelyn lifted her chin. "You cannot imprison me because I quit my job." Luca stepped closer. "Tell me why you are leaving." I explained everything in the letter. The letter contains 4 sentences. 4 sentences are enough to resign. "Not from my home." Evelyn felt the first crack in her control. "Your home was never mine." Silence spread across the driveway. Even the ocean seemed to disappear beneath the cliffs. Luca studied her face as though searching for the exact moment something had changed. Behind him, Isabella descended the steps. "This is absurd," she said. "Let the woman leave. We can replace her before breakfast." Luca turned his head. The temperature of the morning seemed to drop. "Go inside." "Isabella." She looked at him with disbelief. "You locked down the estate because a servant decided to resign. Go inside." Isabella stopped beside him instead. Perhaps Evelyn is enjoying this. Some women create dramatic exits because they want to be followed. Evelyn felt humiliation burn beneath her skin, but she kept her shoulders straight. Luca looked at the woman he was expected to marry. "Did you speak to her yesterday?" Isabella smiled. "I speak to the staff when correction is required." "What correction?" She was becoming confused about her position. Luca turned back to Evelyn. What did she do? Nothing that changes my decision. Evelyn. His voice was lower now. She hated how her name sounded when he said it. For years, Luca had addressed her only when necessary. He rarely raised his voice. He never wasted words. Yet he had always said her name differently from everyone else. Not warmly. Not gently. Carefully, as though it belonged to something he could not afford to damage. Evelyn tightened her hand around the suitcase. Open the gates. Luca stared at her. Then he looked toward Adrian Vale, the head of security. Nobody enters or leaves the estate. Evelyn stepped toward him. You have no right. I will decide that after I know why you disappeared. I did not disappear. I resigned. Without speaking to me. You announced your engagement without speaking to me. The words escaped before she could stop them. Isabella became perfectly still. The staff inside the entrance hall seemed to vanish into silence. Luca looked at Evelyn as though the world had shifted beneath him. Evelyn felt her heart pounding. But she refused to look away. There it was. The truth she had protected for 3 years. Not a confession. Not yet, but enough. Luca moved closer until only the suitcase stood between them. What does my engagement have to do with your resignation? Nothing. You just said otherwise. I said you do not consult your employees about your private decisions. I am showing you the same courtesy. His eyes remained on hers. That is not what you meant. Evelyn released the suitcase and stepped away. You are accustomed to forcing answers from frightened people. I am not frightened of you. No. Luca said. You never have been. Something in his voice almost broke her. Isabella folded her arms. This has gone far enough. Evelyn has always imagined that being useful made her important. It does not. She cleans rooms. She organizes meals. She comforts a child who should have learned discipline years ago. None of that gives her the right to question our engagement. Luca turned slowly. What did you say about Noah? Isabella realized her mistake. I was making a general observation. You will never make another observation about my nephew. Luca did not raise his voice. Isabella stepped back anyway. Evelyn watched the muscles tighten beneath his jaw. For years, she had seen Luca confront armed men without changing his breathing. She had watched him receive news of betrayal, death, and political threats with the same terrifying calm. But a careless sentence about Noah had reached something human inside him. Evelyn knew that part of Luca. She had met it on the first night she entered the Romano estate. 3 years earlier, Evelyn had arrived expecting an ordinary interview. The employment agency had described the position as private household management. The salary had seemed impossibly generous. The requirements had seemed unusually strict. Complete discretion. No questions about guests. No access to the East Wing. No personal relationships with the security staff. No photographs inside the estate. Evelyn had assumed the owner was a celebrity, a politician, or an eccentric billionaire. Then she had stepped through the doors and found 3 armed guards beneath a painted ceiling. Luca Romano had interviewed her himself. He had been seated behind a black desk in a silent library. He wore a dark suit without a tie. A silver watch rested against his wrist. A thin scar disappeared beneath his collar. He had not smiled. Why did you leave your previous position? The family moved to Europe. Why did they not take you? They asked me to go. I refused. Why? My mother was ill. Is she still ill? She died 6 months ago. Luca had looked at her for several seconds. Evelyn had expected sympathy. Instead, he asked another question. Why do you want to work in a house where questions are discouraged? Because silence does not frighten me. His eyes had sharpened. What does frighten you? Cruelty disguised as authority? The older house manager standing beside the door had inhaled sharply. Luca had leaned back in his chair. And if you find cruelty here, I will leave. He hired her before she reached the front gate. Evelyn learned the truth about Luca Romano during her first week. His name appeared in newspapers beside words such as businessman, philanthropist, and suspected crime leader. Men entered the estate at midnight and left before dawn. Black vehicles arrived with damaged windows. Private doctors were summoned without explanation. Nobody called him a mafia boss inside his home. Nobody needed to. Evelyn understood what he was. She also understood what the mansion had become. It was not a home. It was a fortress filled with grief. The death of Marco Romano, the younger brother of Luca, had occurred months before Evelyn arrived. Marco and his wife had been killed in an explosion intended for Luca. Their son Noah survived because he had been staying with relatives. The child came to the Romano estate with nightmares, silence, and a terror of closed doors. Luca placed the boy under the protection of the most feared men in Boston. None of them knew how to make him sleep. Evelyn found Noah hiding beneath the dining table on her fourth night. A storm had struck the coast. Thunder shook the windows. Every flash of lightning made the 8-year-old boy press his hands against his ears. Evelyn sat on the floor several feet away. She did not touch him. She did not call security. She began speaking about ordinary things. She described a bakery near her childhood home. She told him how the owner burned the first tray of bread every Monday because he watched football too late on Sunday nights. She told him about a stray cat that slept inside a flower pot. Noah eventually looked at her. When the storm ended, he crawled into her arms. Luca had been standing in the doorway. Evelyn did not know how long he had been watching. He said nothing. The next morning, a comfortable chair appeared inside the small bedroom beside Noah. That was how Luca communicated. He did not thank people. He changed the world around them. When Evelyn discovered that Noah refused food after nightmares, the kitchen began keeping warm bread available at every hour. When she mentioned that the child needed sunlight, Luca ordered the abandoned greenhouse restored. When she explained that armed guards outside the bedroom made Noah more frightened, the guards moved to the staircase. Luca never admitted that he listened to her. He simply obeyed every suggestion before pretending it had been his own decision. Evelyn learned his habits just as quietly. He drank coffee without sugar before sunrise. He avoided the music room because his mother had played the piano there. He checked every lock personally after violent meetings. He slept only a few hours each night. When anger became dangerous, he stood near the ocean until his breathing slowed. Evelyn never interrupted him. She left coffee on the stone wall and walked away. The cup was always empty when she returned. Their relationship was made of unfinished moments. A glance across a crowded dinner, his hand reaching toward hers before stopping, her voice pulling him from an argument with a single word, the sound of his footsteps slowing outside the kitchen when she laughed with Noah. Neither of them crossed the distance. Then Isabella arrived. The engagement announcement was made during a winter charity gala inside the Romano ballroom. Hundreds of guests stood beneath crystal chandeliers. Politicians raised glasses beside criminal financiers. Women wore diamonds large enough to purchase houses. Men smiled while calculating one another's deaths. Evelyn remained near the ballroom doors with the senior household staff. She wore the black dress Luca had approved for formal events. It was simple, elegant, and tailored to her full figure. Isabella wore silver. She looked like royalty beneath the lights. Luca stood beside her in a black tuxedo. He did not look happy. Evelyn told herself that men like Luca did not marry for happiness. They married for alliances, for bloodlines, for territory, for power. The announcement should not have surprised her. It still felt like a blade between her ribs. Isabella lifted her hand while the guests applauded. A diamond shone on her finger. Luca looked across the ballroom. His eyes found Evelyn. The applause became distant. For one terrible moment, neither of them moved. Then Isabella followed his gaze. Her smile changed. The humiliation began the following morning. A new uniform was delivered to Evelyn. It was gray, shapeless, and several sizes too small. Isabella watched as she opened the box. The future wife of Luca Romano should not be forced to compete with the household staff, Isabella said. Evelyn folded the uniform. You are not competing with me. Of course not. Isabella stepped closer. That would require you to be a woman Luca might choose. Evelyn felt the words land. She did not let them remain visible. The uniform is unsuitable for my work. You will wear it. No. Isabella blinked. Evelyn placed the folded fabric back inside the box. You may become the wife of Luca Romano. You are not currently my employer. Isabella smiled without warmth. That can be corrected. By lunch, the chair Evelyn had used in the staff dining room for 3 years was gone. The head steward explained that Isabella wanted senior employees to stand during meals when family members were present. Evelyn said nothing. That evening, Isabella entered the greenhouse while Evelyn helped Noah plant rosemary. Never look directly at Luca again, she said. Noah heard every word. Evelyn turned toward the child. Go wash the soil from your hands. Noah hesitated. Evelyn smiled. I will be there in a moment. When he left, Evelyn faced Isabella. Do not involve him in this. Then stop encouraging his attachment to you. He lost his parents. He needs stability. He needs to understand that servants leave. The sentence entered Evelyn like ice. Isabella moved closer. You will leave eventually. Women like you always believe kindness will make powerful men love them. It does not. It only makes you convenient. Evelyn went to her room before midnight. She packed one suitcase. She folded the black dress from the gala and placed it on the bed. She left every uniform inside the wardrobe. On the desk, she wrote 4 sentences. Thank you for 3 years of employment. My resignation is effective immediately. I will not request further compensation. Please tell Noah that leaving was my decision. She carried the letter to the private office of Luca. The room was empty. A light burned beside his chair. Evelyn placed the paper where he would find it. She stood there longer than she intended. The office smelled of cedar, smoke, and the coffee he never finished. His coat hung beside the door. She almost touched it. Instead, she walked away. Now she stood in the frozen driveway while Luca prevented her from leaving. He looked from Evelyn to Isabella. What did you do to her? Isabella gave a quiet laugh. I established boundaries. Describe them. This conversation should happen privately. Everything involving my home is private. Answer me. Isabella glanced toward the watching staff. She resented Evelyn. That much was visible. She also feared what Luca might learn. I changed several household policies. Nothing more. Which policies? Evelyn picked up her suitcase. This is not necessary. Luca reached for the handle. His hand closed over hers. The contact lasted less than a second. Both of them froze. Luca released her immediately. But the shock remained between them. Evelyn looked at his hand. He had nearly touched her many times over the years. A palm near her back while passing through a crowded room. Fingers hovering above her shoulder when she cried after her mother had been mentioned. A hand stopping inches from her face when she carried flour from the kitchen. He always stopped. This time he had not. Luca took the suitcase. Evelyn stared at him. Give that back. No. You cannot carry my belongings back into a house I have left. Then tell me the truth. You are engaged. His expression did not change, but his fingers tightened around the handle. Yes. Your fiancé has made it clear that my presence is inappropriate. Did you believe her? Evelyn looked toward the closed gates. I believed the ring on her hand. Luca followed her gaze to Isabella. Then he looked back at Evelyn. Adrienne, he said. The security chief stepped forward. Open the gates. Surprise moved across the faces of every guard. Evelyn looked at Luca. He carried her suitcase to the waiting car and placed it beside the rear door. Then he stepped away. "You are free to leave," he said. The words should have brought relief. Instead, they hurt more than the locked gates. Evelyn reached for the car door. A scream came from inside the mansion. Noah ran through the entrance hall, wearing his pajamas. "Evelyn." He crossed the steps before anyone could stop him. He ran down the driveway and wrapped both arms around her waist. Evelyn closed her eyes. Noah buried his face against her coat. "You did not say goodbye." She placed a hand against his dark hair. "I am sorry. You promised you would not leave after a nightmare." Evelyn looked at Luca. His face had become unreadable again. But pain lived beneath the control. "I will come back to visit you," she told Noah. "When soon?" "That means never." Noah tightened his arms. Isabella remained near the entrance. Luca looked at Evelyn. "Stay until the family dinner," he said. Evelyn shook her head. "No. 1 week. You do not need a housekeeper for 1 week. Noah does. Using him to keep me here is cruel." "I know." The admission surprised her. Luca stepped closer, but he did not block her path. "I am asking." "Evelyn." The word sounded unfamiliar in his mouth. She looked at Noah. The child was trembling. 1 week, she said. Luca nodded once. The gates remained open. That mattered. Evelyn returned to the estate on her own feet. She did not return as though nothing had happened. Before breakfast, she placed conditions on the desk of Luca. "I will remain for Noah until the family dinner." Luca stood behind the desk, still wearing the white shirt from Dawn. "I understand. I will not wear the uniform Isabella selected. It has been burned." Evelyn stared at him. "You burned it," Adrian did. "That seems wasteful." He disliked it. "I suspect you disliked it first." Luca said nothing. Evelyn continued. "I will not accept orders from Isabella. She no longer has authority over the household. She never did." "Correct." Evelyn studied him. "You will not enter my room without permission." Something almost amused passed through his eyes. "Have I ever entered your room?" "No." "Then why is that condition necessary? Because you closed every gate when I tried to leave." "Fair." The words sounded even more unfamiliar than asking. Evelyn took a breath. "At the end of the week, I leave." Luca came around the desk. His movements were slow, controlled. He stopped on the opposite side of the paper. "And if I ask you to stay, you will need a reason better than Noah." His gaze lowered to her mouth for one brief moment. Then it returned to her eyes. "I will find one." Evelyn left the office before he could see how deeply the words affected her. The week began with a change nobody expected. At lunch, Evelyn entered the staff dining room and found her chair restored. It stood at the head of the table. Beside it was a second chair. Luca sat there. Conversation stopped when Evelyn appeared. He had never eaten inside the staff room. He had probably never crossed its threshold. A plate rested before him. He had not touched it. "Is there a problem?" Evelyn asked. Luca looked at the empty chair. "Sit." "That sounds like an order." "Please sit." The staff looked ready to collapse. Evelyn sat across from him instead. Luca accepted the correction. The head steward brought soup. Evelyn noticed several employees standing against the wall. "Why are they not seated?" The steward looked toward Luca. Luca looked at Evelyn. "Why are they not seated?" The steward swallowed. "Miss De Luca requested that junior staff remain standing during meals." Luca placed his spoon beside the bowl. "Sit down," he told them. Everyone moved at once. Evelyn watched him. Luca did not look at her. Isabella entered the room several minutes later. She stopped when she saw the Mafia Boss eating with housekeepers, cooks, drivers, and gardeners. "What is this, lunch?" Luca said. You have a meeting with my father? It was postponed. For this, Luca lifted his spoon. The soup is getting cold. Isabella looked at Evelyn. Every person in the room felt the hatred in her silence. Luca set down the spoon again. You will not look at her that way in my home. She is destroying your judgment. No. He turned his eyes toward Isabella. She is showing me where it failed. Isabella left without another word. That afternoon, Evelyn found Luca inside the greenhouse. He stood near the rosemary Noah had planted. Sunlight entered through the restored glass roof. Frost covered the gardens outside, but the greenhouse remained warm. Evelyn closed the door behind her. You embarrassed Isabella. She embarrassed you first. That does not make this wise. I did not ask for advice. Then why are you here? Luca looked around the room. You built this place. I supervised the restoration. Before you came, it was locked. It needed light. So did Noah. Evelyn touched one of the rosemary leaves. Why did you really announce the engagement? Luca became still. Because it strengthens the family. That is not an answer. It is the answer given to everyone else. I am not everyone else. The words remained between them. Luca stepped toward her. No, he said. You are not. He stopped close enough for Evelyn to feel the heat of his body. She should have moved. She did not. His eyes held hers. There were things Luca communicated only through silence. Warnings, threats, promises. This silence felt like hunger. Evelyn looked at the scar, disappearing beneath his collar. She had wondered about it for years. She had wondered about too much. Luca raised his hand. His fingers moved toward her cheek. They stopped before touching her. The old restraint returned. Evelyn felt something inside her break. Why do you always stop? His hand remained suspended between them. Because once I touch something I want, I do not release it easily. She swallowed. I am not something. I know. His hand lowered. That is why I stop. The greenhouse door opened. Adrian entered with a phone in his hand. His expression was tense. We have a problem. Luca stepped away from Evelyn. What happened? One of the security access codes was used last night. Which code? The East Service Gate. That gate has been sealed for 2 years. It opened for 47 seconds. Luca looked toward the mansion. Who has access? You. Me. And members of the senior household. Evelyn felt the change in him. The man standing beside her had spent several minutes allowing himself to become human. Now the Mafia Boss returned. Seal every entrance. Luca said. Search the grounds. Nobody leaves without being questioned. His eyes moved to Evelyn. She understood the command before he spoke. Take Noah to the safe room. Evelyn found the child in the library. They crossed the west corridor while security teams moved through the estate. Noah looked frightened. Is someone trying to hurt Uncle Luca? I do not know. That means yes. Evelyn knelt in front of him. Look at me. Noah obeyed. Your uncle has protected this house for a very long time. We are going to help him by following instructions. Are you leaving after the dinner? Evelyn hesitated. Noah studied her face with the painful intelligence of a child who had already lost too much. You love him, he said. Evelyn stopped breathing. Why would you say that? You look at him the way he looks at you. How does he look at me? Like he is angry that you can disappear. A sound came from the courtyard. Glass shattered. Evelyn pulled Noah behind a marble column. A man dressed in a maintenance uniform stepped through the broken side door. She had never seen him before. His hand reached inside his jacket. Evelyn pushed Noah toward the library. Run to the safe room. The man drew a gun. Evelyn grabbed a brass lamp from the table and threw it. The lamp struck his shoulder as the weapon fired. The bullet entered the ceiling. Noah screamed. Evelyn charged before the man could aim again. She drove her shoulder into his chest. They crashed against the wall. He struck her across the face. Pain exploded behind her eyes. The gun fell beneath a table. The intruder reached for Evelyn. A second gunshot shook the corridor. The man collapsed. Luca stood at the far end of the hall with a pistol in his hand. His expression was empty, terrifying. He crossed the corridor while guards rushed from every direction. Evelyn looked at the blood spreading beneath the intruder. Then her knees weakened. Luca caught her before she reached the floor. "Where is Noah's safe room?" Luca looked toward Adrian. "Find him." Adrian ran. Luca touched Evelyn near the bruise forming along her cheek. His hand shook. She had never seen his hand shake. "Did he hurt you anywhere else?" "I am fine." "That is not what I asked." She looked at the dead man. "You killed him. He aimed a gun at you." There was no hesitation in his answer. No regret. The truth of Luca entered the corridor with the smell of gunpowder. Evelyn had always known he was dangerous. Knowing was different from watching him kill a man without blinking. Luca saw the fear in her eyes. His hand fell from her face. "You should be afraid of me," he said. "I am afraid of what you can do." "Good. But I am not afraid that you will do it to me." Something raw moved through his expression. He lifted Evelyn into his arms. She placed a hand against his chest. "I can walk." "Not today." The staff watched as Luca carried the housekeeper through the center of the mansion. Blood marked the white marble behind them. His gun remained in one hand. Evelyn rested against the other arm. At the top of the staircase, Isabella stood frozen. Luca looked up at her. "Call your father," he said. "Why?" "Tell him the engagement dinner will continue as planned. A man was just killed inside the estate." "Exactly." Luca carried Evelyn past her. He did not release Evelyn until a private doctor examined the bruise on her cheek. The injury was minor. Luca behaved as though Boston had been set on fire. He stood beside the bedroom window while the doctor worked. 2 guards remained outside the door. Adrian reported that Noah was safe. Evelyn watched Luca through the mirror. He had cleaned the blood from his hand. A red stain remained on his shirt. The doctor left. Luca remained. "You are inside my room without permission," Evelyn said. His eyes moved toward her. "Should I leave?" She expected him to ignore the question. Instead, he walked toward the door. "Stay." Luca stopped. Evelyn looked at the bruise along her face. "Who was that man?" "He worked for the Morelli family." "Your rivals?" "Yes." "How did he enter?" "With an access code." Isabella. Luca did not answer. Evelyn understood. The engagement was never about marriage. His gaze sharpened. "Why would you say that?" "Because you looked at her after Adrian mentioned the security code. You did not look surprised. You looked disappointed." Luca removed his gun and placed it on the table. The engagement was designed to create pressure inside the De Luca family. You used yourself as bait. "I used an alliance." Isabella believes she will become your wife. She believes what her father told her to believe. Does her father know? He knows enough to become careless. Evelyn stood. Pain moved through her cheek. Luca came closer, then stopped himself. "You allowed her into this house because you wanted someone in her family to reveal themselves." "Yes." "You allowed her to control the household." "No." "You were silent while she humiliated me." Luca looked at her. Evelyn felt anger rising through the fear. "You saw the uniform." "I saw it yesterday." "You saw my chair disappear." "This morning." "You heard her speak to Noah at the gate, and you knew she might be involved in a betrayal. But you left her close enough to attack the people living here. The engagement required her to believe she had influence, including influence over me." His silence became an answer. Evelyn stepped back. "You used me." "No." "She believed hurting me would reveal whether you cared." Luca did not deny it quickly enough. Evelyn felt the room tilt. "You knew she was watching your reactions." "I suspected it. So every time you ignored what she did, You were protecting your plan. I was protecting the family. At my expense. Luca came toward her. I did not know how far she had gone. Because you never asked? His jaw tightened. Evelyn moved around him and opened the door. Leave. You were attacked less than 1 hour ago. Leave. I will remain outside. That is still control. It is protection. There is no difference when the person being protected has no choice. The words struck him. Luca stood in the doorway. For the first time since Evelyn had known him. The Mafia boss appeared uncertain. Then he nodded. He walked away. No guards remained outside her room. Evelyn noticed that too. Luca obeyed her request even when it frightened him. The following morning, Evelyn left the estate. The gates remained open. Her suitcase was carried to the car by a driver. Nobody attempted to stop her. Noah cried. But he did not beg. Luca had explained that Evelyn was allowed to choose. She hugged the boy beneath the winter sun. I will see you at the family dinner. You promise? I promise. She stood and found Luca near the mansion entrance. He wore a black coat. His face revealed nothing. Evelyn walked toward him. I am not returning as an employee. I know. I am not returning because you ordered me. I know. Do you? His eyes met hers. The gates are open. Evelyn looked toward them. Yes, they are. She entered the car. Luca remained in the driveway until the vehicle disappeared from view. Evelyn returned to the small Boston apartment she had kept despite living at the estate. The apartment felt strangely unfamiliar. It contained a narrow kitchen, a second-hand couch, and framed photographs of her mother. The rooms were quiet. No child called her name. No security radios murmured behind distant walls. No footsteps slowed outside the kitchen. Evelyn unpacked her suitcase. That evening, she looked through the window and found a black car parked across the street. Anger rose instantly. She put on her coat and crossed the road. Adrian sat behind the wheel. Luca sat in the rear seat. Evelyn opened the door. You said the gates were open. They are. Then why are you following me? There is still a threat. You promised choice. Luca looked at Adrian. Leave us. Adrian exited the vehicle and walked toward the corner. Evelyn remained beside the open door. Luca gestured toward the seat. She did not move. He stepped out instead. Snow began falling between them. I came to apologize. Luca said. The words seemed to cost him more than money, blood, or power ever had. Evelyn waited. He looked toward her apartment. I noticed what you gave my home. I did not notice what it took from you. She felt her anger weaken. That is not enough. I know. I allowed Isabella to believe she had power because I wanted her family to expose itself. I watched every person around me as part of the plan. I watched you as though you were protected simply because you mattered to me. Evelyn folded her arms against the cold. You never told me I mattered. Luca stepped closer. I did not know how. You command armies of men. They fear me. Fear is simple. And I am not, no. His answer came without hesitation. You are the only person who has ever made me want something I cannot take. Snow gathered in his dark hair. The city moved around them. Cars passed. Pedestrians crossed the street without realizing that the most feared man in Boston stood beneath a streetlight asking a housekeeper not to disappear. Evelyn looked at him. What do you want? You. The word was quiet, completely unguarded. She felt her heart pull toward him. Luca continued before she could answer. Not because you care for Noah. Not because you know my home. Not because you calm me. I want the woman who challenged me during an interview. The woman who sits on the floor beside frightened children. The woman who refused an order from Isabella. The woman who looked at me after I killed a man and still saw enough humanity to demand better from me. Evelyn swallowed. You want the peace I create? No. He moved closer. I want the storm you create when you leave. His hand rose toward her face. He stopped again. Evelyn looked at his fingers, suspended beside her cheek. This time she closed the distance herself. She placed his palm against her skin. Luca inhaled sharply. The power in him became completely still. His thumb moved once beneath her bruise. I should have protected you sooner, he said. You should have trusted me sooner. Yes, you should have asked what I wanted. What do you want? Now Evelyn looked at his mouth. She had imagined this moment in silent rooms for 3 years. The reality felt more dangerous. I want you to kiss me without believing it means you own me. Luca leaned closer. If I kiss you, I will want to own every moment after it. Then learn to want without taking. His forehead touched hers. Teach me. Evelyn kissed him first. Luca remained motionless for one stunned heartbeat. Then his hand moved behind her neck. The kiss was not gentle. It carried 3 years of restraint, denial, jealousy, and loneliness. It carried every cup of coffee left beside the ocean, every glance across a ballroom, every doorway where he had stopped himself. Evelyn gripped the front of his coat. Luca pulled her closer, then forced himself to release her. His breathing was uneven. Come back with me. No. Pain flashed across his expression. Evelyn touched his face. That kiss does not erase what happened. What will? Nothing erases it. You prove that you have changed by what you do next. The family dinner is tomorrow. I will be there. Would Evelyn step back? That depends on you. She returned to her apartment. Luca remained beneath the falling snow. The next evening, black vehicles lined the driveway of the Romano estate. The family dinner had been planned as a celebration of the engagement. Every powerful member of the Romano and De Luca families arrived beneath the glow of winter lanterns. Evelyn entered through the main doors, not the staff entrance. She wore a deep green evening dress that followed the curves of her body. Her hair rested in soft waves against her shoulders. She wore no expensive jewelry. She did not need it. The room fell silent. Luca stood near the fireplace. His gaze moved over her with such intensity that several guests followed it. He crossed the room. Evelyn felt every eye upon them. You came, he said. I promised Noah. Only Noah. She looked at him. Do not become greedy. Something close to a smile touched his mouth. Isabella entered before he could answer. She wore black. The engagement ring still rested on her finger. Her eyes moved from Evelyn to Luca. Why is she here? Luca did not look away from Evelyn. Because I invited her. This is a family dinner. Correct. The implication spread through the room. Isabella became pale. Dinner was served beneath a ceiling painted with angels in war. Evelyn sat beside Noah. Luca sat at the head of the table. Isabella occupied the seat expected of his future wife. Crystal glasses reflected candlelight. Silver knives rested beside porcelain plates. Security guards stood against the walls. Evelyn sensed danger before the first course ended. Not physical danger. Something colder. Isabella was too calm. She lifted her glass. Before we celebrate the joining of 2 families, she said, I believe honesty is required. Luca placed his hand beside his plate. Choose your next words carefully. Isabella smiled. I recently discovered that someone inside this house has been deceiving us. Several guests looked toward one another. Isabella reached beneath the table and produced a folded page. Evelyn recognized it immediately. It came from the notebook she had kept in her room. A private page she had written after the engagement announcement. Her stomach tightened. Isabella unfolded it. Evelyn Carter has spent years imagining herself in a position she could never deserve. Luca stood. Put it down. Isabella continued. She wrote that watching Luca place a ring on another woman felt like losing a home she had never been allowed to claim. Laughter moved through the De Luca side of the table. Evelyn felt heat rise through her body. Noah reached for her hand. Isabella looked directly at her. How painful it must be to believe kindness can make a mafia boss love a housekeeper. Evelyn rose slowly. Isabella expected tears. She would not receive them. You entered my room and stole something private. I exposed a manipulation. No. Evelyn looked around the table. You exposed that I loved a man who did not belong to me. That may be humiliating, but it is not a crime. Luca stared at her. The confession entered the room like fire. Isabella lost her smile. Evelyn turned toward Luca. I loved you quietly because I respected the life you chose. I left because I respected myself enough not to remain where that love would be used against me. Luca moved around the table. Isabella stood. This is pathetic. She is a servant. Luca stopped beside her chair. Remove the ring. The color left Isabella's face. What Luca held out his hand. Remove it. Her father stood at the opposite end of the table. Luca, think carefully. I have been thinking carefully for months. Isabella looked at the guests. You cannot end an alliance because this woman developed a fantasy. Luca took her hand. He removed the engagement ring himself. Isabella attempted to pull away. His grip did not tighten. It did not need to. The room understood his decision. Luca placed the ring on the table. This engagement existed because someone inside the De Luca family sold access codes, shipping routes, and names of protected witnesses to the Morelli organization. Isabella looked toward her father. Luca continued, I suspected your brother. Then your father. I was wrong. Adrian stepped forward and placed several photographs beside Isabella's plate. Images showed Isabella meeting a Morelli representative inside a private hotel corridor. Another photograph showed her passing a security device across a table. The final image showed the dead intruder who had attacked Evelyn. Luca looked at Isabella. You opened the east gate. The De Luca family erupted into angry voices. Isabella stared at the photographs. Then she laughed. You brought me into your home as bait. Do not pretend you are morally offended. I expected betrayal. Luca moved between Isabella and Evelyn. I did not expect you to aim it at her. That is the part you cannot forgive. No. Luca looked at Evelyn. It is the part I will destroy you for. The chandeliers went dark. Gunfire shattered the windows. Luca pushed Evelyn and Noah beneath the table as bullets tore through the dining room. Guests screamed. Guards returned fire. Glass rained across the floor. Luca covered Evelyn with his body. Stay behind me. A bullet struck the wall above them. Evelyn wrapped one arm around Noah. The child trembled against her. Adrian shouted from the doorway. The west corridor is compromised. Luca fired twice toward a masked gunman near the windows. Both shots found their target. The attacker fell. Isabella crawled away from the table. Evelyn saw her reach beneath a fallen guard. A gun rested beside his hand. Isabella grabbed it. Luca did not see her. Evelyn pushed Noah toward the service door. Go with Adrian. I will not leave you. Evelyn gripped his shoulders. You know the greenhouse tunnel. Noah nodded through tears. Take Adrian there. Show him the entrance behind the stone fountain. Noah ran. Evelyn turned as Isabella raised the gun. The weapon pointed at Luca. Evelyn threw herself against him. The shot struck his shoulder. Luca fell beside her. For one terrible second. Every sound disappeared. Blood spread across his white shirt. Evelyn pressed both hands against the wound. Luca looked at her. Are you hurt? She stared at him in disbelief. You were shot. Answer me. I am not hurt. Relief moved across his face. More gunfire shook the corridor. Adrian appeared beside them. The tunnel, Evelyn said. We can reach the old chapel. Luca attempted to stand. Evelyn placed his uninjured arm across her shoulders. He was larger, heavier, and bleeding rapidly. But she refused to let him fall. They crossed the dining room through smoke and broken glass. The service passage behind the kitchen led toward the greenhouse. Evelyn knew every corridor, every hidden staircase, every door that locked during storms. The woman Isabella called replaceable became the only person capable of leading the family out alive. Evelyn helped Luca through the tunnel beneath the greenhouse. Adrian followed with Noah and 3 surviving guards. The tunnel ended inside an abandoned chapel near the cliffs. Cold moonlight entered through cracked windows. Evelyn lowered Luca beside the altar. Adrian examined the wound. The bullet passed through. Luca looked toward the chapel door. "Where is Isabella?" A voice answered from the darkness. "Here." Isabella stepped from behind a stone column. She held the gun with both hands. Her elegant black dress was torn. Blood marked one side of her face. The guards raised their weapons. Isabella aimed at Noah. Luca became completely still. "Lower your guns," she said. Adrian hesitated. Luca gave a single nod. The guards obeyed. Isabella looked at Evelyn. "This is what you created." Evelyn stood between her and Noah. "I did not sell information to murderers. You made him weak." Isabella laughed through tears. "Before you, Luca Romano was feared because nothing mattered to him. Then he began changing meetings because Noah had nightmares. He spared employees because you asked for mercy. He returned home earlier when you worked in the kitchen. He watched you cross rooms as though the rest of us did not exist." Evelyn looked toward Luca. His eyes remained on Isabella. She continued, "I knew what you were before either of you admitted it. You were the door into his heart. I only needed to remove you. The intruder was meant to frighten me. He was meant to kill you." Luca reached toward the gun resting near Adrian. Isabella pressed her weapon closer to Noah. "Do not move." Evelyn stepped forward. "Take me instead." "No," Luca said. She ignored him. "You wanted me removed. Noah has nothing to do with this. He is another weakness. He is a child. He is the future of the Romano family." Evelyn moved another step. Isabella shifted the gun toward her. Luca saw the opening. He moved despite the blood pouring from his shoulder. A gunshot filled the chapel. Isabella screamed. Her weapon fell. Luca had fired through her hand. Adrian seized her before she reached the floor. Luca remained standing for several seconds. Then his knees weakened. Evelyn caught him. He looked at her as she lowered him beside the altar. "I told you to stay behind me. You were bleeding. That does not change the order." Evelyn pressed a hand against his wound. "I am not one of your soldiers." His mouth curved faintly despite the pain. "No." "What am I?" His eyes held hers. "The only home I have ever chosen." The words broke through every remaining wall inside her. Evelyn leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. "You cannot die after saying that." "I have no intention of dying." "Good. I have not finished being angry with you." Luca closed his eyes. "Stay angry." "Why?" "It means you are staying." The private doctor arrived before midnight. Luca was carried back to the estate beneath armed protection. Isabella and the surviving attackers were taken into the underground, holding rooms beneath a Romano warehouse. The DeLuca alliance ended before sunrise. The war that followed remained invisible to most of Boston. Businesses changed ownership. Men disappeared from private clubs. The Morelli family lost access to ports, banks, and political protection. Isabella was sent out of the country under terms Luca never discussed with Evelyn. He did not ask her to understand that part of him. He only promised that Isabella would never reach Noah again. Luca recovered inside the same bedroom where Evelyn had once forbidden him to remain. This time, she entered by choice. She sat beside him during the long nights when pain prevented sleep. She changed the dressing on his shoulder. She read business reports aloud when he became too restless to rest. She did not wear a uniform. The staff began calling her Miss Carter. Luca called her Evelyn. Every time, he said it carefully, One morning, she found him attempting to dress without assistance. His shoulder was not ready. "Sit down," she said. "That sounds like an order." "It is." Luca sat. Evelyn buttoned his shirt. His eyes remained on her face. "You enjoy this. Enjoy what, giving orders inside my room? Your room is part of the estate. Then it belongs to you." Evelyn paused. Luca reached toward the table. A ring box rested there. She looked at him. He did not open it. "I am not asking today," he said. "Why show it to me?" "Because secrets damaged us." He placed the box in her hand. "When you are ready, give it back to me. And then I will ask." Evelyn felt tears burn behind her eyes. "You are learning." Slowly, she placed the box inside the drawer beside his bed. Luca watched her. "You are not refusing. I am not accepting. That is progress." Several weeks later, the Romano family gathered in the ballroom again. The broken windows had been replaced. Bullet marks were gone. Music filled rooms that had remained silent for years. The event was not an engagement celebration. It was Noah's birthday. Children ran between tables. Staff members ate beside family guests. No one stood against the walls during meals. Evelyn entered the room, wearing a dark blue dress. Luca waited near the center of the ballroom. His shoulder had healed. A black suit followed the powerful lines of his body. He still frightened every criminal in Boston. He no longer frightened the people who loved him. Noah ran toward Evelyn. He carried a ring box. Evelyn looked at Luca. "You involved a child," he volunteered. Noah opened the box. Evelyn had left it inside the drawer that morning. She crossed the ballroom. Luca watched her approach. Every conversation faded. Evelyn stopped in front of him. "The first time you prevented me from leaving, you closed every gate." Luca nodded. "I was afraid. You called it protection. I was wrong. The second time, you left them open. I was more afraid. But you let me choose." "Yes." Evelyn placed the ring box in his hand. Luca looked down at it. Then he looked at her. "Are you certain the question mattered more than the ring?" Evelyn smiled. "Ask me, Luca Romano, the man who commanded a criminal empire from the shadows of Boston." Lowered himself to one knee. Gasps moved through the ballroom. His eyes never left Evelyn. "You entered a house built from fear and made it gentle without asking permission. You protected my nephew, challenged my cruelty, and taught me that devotion without freedom is only another prison." Evelyn felt tears fall across her cheeks. Luca opened the box. "Evelyn Carter, will you choose me? Knowing every dark thing I am and every better thing I am, still learning to become." She looked around the ballroom, at Noah, at the staff, seated beside powerful guests, at the restored piano waiting near the windows, at the home that no longer felt like a fortress. Then she looked down at Luca. Yes. Applause filled the room. Luca stood and placed the ring on her finger. He did not pull her toward him. He waited. Evelyn stepped into his arms. He kissed her beneath the chandeliers. Months later, dawn spread across the Romano estate. The iron gates stood open. Evelyn walked beside Luca through the garden while Noah raced ahead of them toward the greenhouse. A convoy of black vehicles waited near the entrance. Luca had meetings inside the city. Men feared his arrival. Rivals still whispered his name. He stopped beside the gates. Evelyn looked at him. What is wrong? Nothing. Luca watched the empty road beyond the estate. I was remembering the morning you tried to leave. You were terrifying. I was desperate. There is a difference. Not to the guards. Evelyn smiled. Luca took her hand. I believed closing the gates would keep you. It nearly made me leave forever. I know. He lifted her hand and kissed the ring. What made you stay? Evelyn looked toward the mansion. Sunlight filled the windows. Staff members opened curtains. Music drifted faintly from the room Luca had once avoided. Noah called to them from the greenhouse. Evelyn looked back at Luca. You finally understood that a home is not the place you prevent someone from leaving. What is it? The place where they are free to leave, but choose to return. Luca drew her closer. The gates remained open behind them. They always would. Evelyn had once believed she was invisible inside the enormous estate of Luca Romano. She had been wrong. She was the light he followed through every dark room. She was the voice capable of stopping his anger. She was the only person he could not command. The only woman he would kneel before. The only home the Mafia Boss had ever chosen. And this time, when Luca held her, he did not hold her like something he owned. He held her like someone he had been trusted to love.